Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. This is the show in which I celebrate artists and their body of worth. And boy, do we have a worthy artist that we're celebrating today. I have a confession to make. The first time that I saw Nicolas King, our special guest today, on stage, he was 4 years old, which makes me feel very old. But anyway, he is always worth celebrating. He's one of the greatest entertainers that we have working in cabaret and in concerts today. But don't take my word for it. Take a look.
Once I get you up there where the air is so rarefied, we are gonna glide starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so awfully near. You might even hear all of the angels cheer, because we're together weather-wise. It's such a lovely day. But if you just say the words, we'll beat those birds down to Acapulco Bay. Hey, it's perfect for a flying honeymoon, I dare to say. So come on, fly with me. Come fly, let's fly away. Pack up, let's fly away. Troubles, go take them out for a walk. They'll burst like bubbles in the fun of a Sunday in New York. Grand Central Station will send me there in a chariot of steel and chrome. I'm one of the thousands who twice each day find their grateful way. And tomorrow once more I will ride that long track into the city I love, and then later right back. And I figure they might as well put up a plaque. Grand Central Station, relax, you're halfway.
Sensation that way. Now if you want to find the way, follow me on stage. Oh,
Nicholas, it is a shame you have no talent. He's frozen, but I'm sure we'll get him here any moment.
Oh, my word.
Can you hear me, Nicholas?
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. You're
I can
breaking
hear
up
you.
a little
Shall I
bit,
leave and
but
come back?
I would rather you didn't leave
Let
and come back.
me leave
But
and come right back.
if you want to leave, why don't you leave and come back? And while we're waiting for you to leave and
Oh,
come
okay.
back, I'll talk about you a little bit. This is what happens when you're doing a live show, folks. So leave, come back, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nicholas. First of all, Nicholas has been performing since he was 4 years old. He made his Broadway debut in Beauty and the Beast. He was also in 1,000 Clowns on Broadway with Tom Selleck. And I saw him in Hollywood Arms with Michelle Paulk, who I'm very excited to say I will be interviewing in a couple of weeks. So come back for that. Nicholas has been very, very fortunate. Not only does he have the talent, which we're going to talk about when he comes back, but he has been surrounded by some of the greatest talents in show business. And of course, he's been working with Mike Renay for many, many years. And here he is back. So let's hope that this works this time. I think that he's on his phone, which sometimes becomes problematic. You're back.
We're going to hope that this works a little bit better.
We're going to hope that it works.
I'm back
First of
now.
all, I want to thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And I always begin these shows, unfortunately, by reminding the audience that today marks 257 days since our Broadway theater shut down. And of course, that includes cabarets, concerts, everything going on around the world. And I want to ask you, before we delve into your life and career, how are you doing really in the midst of all this?
I think I'm as well as I can be. You know, I think it's taking its toll on all of us. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, good. I mean, I think it's difficult for everybody because we're all trying to find out new ways to survive and new ways to go about, living. So I will say I'm riding the Corona coaster. I have great days. I have not great days, and today happens to be a great day because I get to see you. So that's
well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Nicholas, not to delve too much into your private life, unless you take us there. Do you live alone? Are you with your family?
I live alone. I've been riding out a lot of the quarantine with my folks in Rhode Island, but currently I am in Westchester, but on my own in my own apartment, and enjoying my little town. I live in Harrison, and I love it up here. It's just beautiful. It's calm. It's gorgeous. It's green. It's suburbia, and I enjoy it very much up here.
Now, I know that when the pandemic first hit and Broadway and cabaret and everything shut down, you, along with Mike Renay, started doing these concerts. Are you doing these from your home? Are they in Mike's home? Or how do you get together to do these?
Well, it started out at Mike's home, actually. And we sort of alternate between my grandmother Angela's house in Rhode Island and Mike Renay's home in Newport, Rhode Island. But it started out back in April when Mike and I just sort of said, why don't we do like a small 20-minute set or something just to lift people's spirits, And from there, it blossomed into something much bigger and just wonderful to be able to, create a different show every week, and then of course just to connect with fans from all over the world, from people in South America and Europe and Australia, Croatia, England. It was nice to get a chance to connect to people around the world who are also in the same boat that we are, wondering when is this thing going to calm down,
And how are you beyond what you're doing with Mike? Do you have a structure to your days? Are they very fluid? What are you doing to keep yourself creative?
Well, I'm playing the piano a lot. I've got my piano right here, and I play it just about daily. And with the shows that I've been doing with Mike have been a wonderful release. But on top of it, I have been working on a new record, and that's what's been taking up a lot of my creative time. Getting this new album prepared and ready to go and recorded and mixed and mastered, and that's been fun. But that's over now. I finished all of that, so now I'm a bit in a postpartum panic, wondering what to do next.
And where does this fit in? How many albums have you done so far?
This will be my 6th.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
This will be my 6th album.
And you mentioned your grandmother, incredible Angela, who we all love, Angela McCurry. And I know that you started out as a child actor. As I mentioned, when you were away, you made your Broadway debut in Beauty and the Beast as a wee tot. And as I said to you before we went live, I saw you in Hollywood Arms on Broadway, directed by Hal Prince, and co-starring along with Michelle Falk, who won a Tony Award. Do you think that you had anything to do with her winning the Tony Award?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. Michelle is so brilliant, and she brought so much to that character. No, I had nothing to do with that. Are you kidding? Dynamite. But I will say some of my favorite memories of that show were the small moments that she and I got to interact. We didn't get to interact often. Our characters didn't, they bobbed and weaved a little bit through each other. But my favorite moments were the moments I did share with her and Linda Lavin. We had fun between she and Linda, myself. We had this sort of interesting dynamic on stage because their characters were not supposed to like me very much, and I wasn't supposed to like them very much. So it made for a lot of funny passing glances and for a lot of fun.
Now, I want to ask, I mean, I made my acting debut, excluding school things that I did, but when I was 13 years old. Obviously, you were a lot younger than that. How did you prepare for the role?
Well, by that time, I had already done two shows on Broadway. I had already done an annoying amount of television commercials, so I was already in the habit, if you will, of getting into under the skin of a character. But I think one of the things I loved the most about that show was working with Hal, and how much of a team player Hal was. Hal was not so cut and dry. Do this, do that, do this, do that. What I appreciate the most about someone like Hal, who has the credentials and the wisdom to tell me to stand on my head in a corner of a room and I would just do it blindly because he's so genius. But Hal had this ability to collaborate with who he was working with. And he wanted me to pull out, from my own self and my own soul. And so to work with him on that character development was just an education that you can't pay for it. I could never pay for that sort of education.
Now, I want to ask you, we know of your grandmother and this incredible gift that you have, but I don't know a lot about your parents. I mean, were your parents in the business? Did they, what kind of music did you listen to growing up? And how did the road to Broadway begin for you at such an early age?
So, are the only in my family to not be musically inclined or musical just at all. They love music, and they're avid music fans. And from the time I was an infant, they were bringing me to places like the Newport Jazz Festival, and to see different bands throughout the area. And he took me to see Liza Minnelli when I was 3 years old. So they were always introducing me to different types of music, different sounds of music. I have my fondest memories are growing up in the house with my father playing on the large stereo, Earth, Wind and Fire and Luther Vandross and Mariah Carey and Count Basie live in Newport and Sinatra at the Sands. So my taste was very, very varied from a very young age.
Now, my grandmother, Well, my grandmother always used to refer to me as an old soul. I was always drawn to the older music, the older entertainers, all of that. And obviously, you've embraced this. And as part of your career, what would surprise people the most about your taste in music outside the realm of the type of music that you do?
Oh, well, I think actually, I think people could kind of predict. I love jazz. I love listening to jazz vocalists, but I am shockingly, um, open to top 20.
Mhm.
I love some of the writers and some of the performers that are out today. I love people like Lady Gaga and Adele, and
Mhm.
I think of Gaga and Adele to be sort of the torch singers of my generation. There's not many of them, but they're torch singers in essence. So I like a lot. I like a lot of the current singers, which a lot of people may not think. Even based on the way I'm describing it, I'm doing a terrible job at saying
Mhm.
it. But listen to a lot of 20.
Now, you may be, too young to even remember this, but recalling, your grandmother speaking, I don't even want to think of her as a grandmother because she's too young to be a grandmother. Um, she truly is. But your parents, is there a moment where they said, "Oh my God,
Tell
this
her
kid"?
she'll be your best friend on the planet.
Well, I will tell her. But was there a moment where your parents said, "Oh my God, this kid can sing"?
I think they learned that pretty early on. I think I had to been about 3 or 4.
Mhm.
And and mind you too, because my family is so musically inclined, everybody in my family, with the exception of my parents, play either an instrument, or they can sing, or they have beautiful voices, or do something. So I grew up watching all that all the time and going with my grandmother to gigs. Most kids after school go to grandma's house and make apple pie and watch cartoons. I went with my grandmother to gigs, or I'd go with my aunt to one of her gigs and hang out with the bass player and the trumpet player, and go hanging out with the band afterwards. So my education on that was very full from very early on. So I think my parents noticed that around the age of 3 or 4, because
Mhm.
they entered me into a little local contest in Rhode Island, and my parents are not ambitious. My parents are not. They've never been stage parents. They have 0 stars in their eyes. They have different priorities than that, and so no real desire for me to get into show business, except for the fact that they could tell I really liked it. So they
Mhm.
figured they'd give me an outlet to express it, and I won.
Well, if they didn't have this
And to
aspect
their
of their
surprise, I
lives,
won. And then,
if they didn't have this aspect of their lives, how did
I'm
Beauty and the
sorry.
Beast come about? How did the audition come about for you?
Well, that's just it. Well, that's just so I won that competition in Rhode Island, went me
Mhm.
to New York for the national competition, and my parents were a bit leery. They went, "Well, we're not so sure." But I did that competition and I won my division. So I got a lot of agents afterwards coming up after to talk and the whole thing. And they kind of looked at each other like, "Are we going to do this?" And so they decided that they'd give it a shot, and be in control of it. Because they had heard all of the nightmare stories about child actors and stage parents, and they didn't want, obviously, something negative. But then the audition came through a wonderful agent, my agent for many years, Nancy Carson, who I was with when I think I
Mhm.
signed with her when I was about 7. And she was a child agent, and she got me on audition for Beauty and the Beast. And on the ride back from New York to Rhode Island, I was in, I think, New Haven, and I got the phone call that I got the part.
That's the perfect place to get the phone call. It's such a theatrical town. Uh, so, yes. So, and then you did a lot of
It is.
commercials. I still remember your Oscar Mayer commercial, which of course went international. You did so many commercials. Your life now, especially in the last, I would say 5, 10 years that I've known you, you have gravitated completely to the music side of this industry. Do you miss acting? Do you still go after acting gigs, or have you put that aspect of your life aside?
I think I've been forced to put it aside. It's not something I chose to do
Mhm.
consciously, but as everybody, I feel like Bjork Lee in a chorus line. Everybody started getting taller, and there I was stuck at 5'2".
Mhm.
So everybody got older, and as I got to be the age where I capped off at 5'2". So for me, it was very difficult to find auditions and find parts that were okay with height. And that's
Mhm.
still today something that plagues me because I can't go for leading man roles. Every in the breakdown it says 5'10" and up. So not even on a step ladder be able to make that. So it is difficult for me. So I think because I was forced into that, I said, well, what am I going to do? I can't, just play the bit actor all the time or make my living, trying to be the side hustle. I got to something that I know that I can do well and let me sink into that. And I thought, well, I can sing and pitch. Let me
Mhm.
give that a go. And that's sort of how that became about.
Now, I do want to talk for a moment about Liza because you were so. And if anyone out there says Liza, who you can leave now, but you got very, very lucky that she became your mentor, and you even opened for her for years. Were you already performing on stage, doing your singing when she came along?
I was actually, she had met me. I met her when I was on Broadway, and we hit it off through a series of events. And I opened for her for the first time when I was 11 um, at a concert, and she was doing. And I'll never forget the phone call too. She called me up, and I had known her very superficially at that particular
Mhm.
point. I didn't know her very well yet. Of course, I knew who she was. I was an avid fan from the time I was 2, and my father had the Carnegie Hall cassette tape that used to play, and I was just in love with it. And
Which
so, of
I
course,
went
I
to
knew
see
every
live.
song and every lyric and every.
Yeah.
So she calls the house. Yeah, did you? Oh, I want to talk about that. That's exciting to me. Um,
Yes.
that had to be thrilling, huh? Well, we'll talk about
Oh,
that
I
later. I'll
probably,
call you.
I think I've
We
seen
can geek out
Liza.
about that. But
I've seen Liza more times in concert than any other artist.
well, that's the best person to see if you're going to go to a lot of shows.
Other than you, of
She's just
course.
fantastic. But so I got the phone call. I was in my living room. I got the phone call, and it was, hi baby, look, I got this concert. Would you come and open for me? I'd love to have you. And I'm thinking, is this real life? Is someone playing a joke? And she said, but look, I want to sing something with you. There's a song that my mother and Gene Kelly once sang in a movie. You think you could learn it and we could do it together? And I thought, well, yes. So she goes, all right, it's called When You Wore a Tulip. And I knew it because we had the VHS at that time of For Me and My Gal. So I was already up on it. And I thought, what a strange song to want to sing with me. And she thought it was going to be so cool because I was so small and I was like a middle-aged kid, and coming out and singing this old-fashioned song with her. She thought it would be a real kick, and she was right because it was a big hit at the show. And it was just the beginning of what would become a really, really wonderful mentorship.
Now, on Saturday, I interviewed Suede, and she opened years ago for Joan Rivers. And we talked about this, but I want to get your perspective on this also. When you open for someone, especially someone like Liza Minnelli, you know that for the most part, except for a few friends and family that are there to see you, the audience is there to see Liza. So you know that hitting the stage. What is that experience like for you? And what advice would you give to other people who are ever opening for a big name?
What I say is the most exhilarating challenge I have ever had. Because, like you said, there are thousands of people that have paid top dollar not to see you. They don't care about you. They want to see the person that they have booked their ticket for, and especially somebody who's so iconic.
Mhm.
And actually, for once in a blue moon, I would get heckler or somebody from the top, thing would go, you know, bring her out, or something rude, and unnecessary. And it was a huge education. You had to learn, win over an audience. You have to think, right, I'm coming out here, no one wants to see me. How do I win these people over? And it becomes a challenge, and you have to go, right, and how do I do this where, these people will walk away saying, oh, and that was a nice little thing too that we got to see. Instead of going, oh, we had to see this kid, So it's a challenge, but I say that if you have the opportunity to open for somebody who's a big name, take it, because it is the best education and if you can conquer an audience like that, you can conquer anything.
And take us back to that time when you did your own show, when it was Nicolas King solo on stage with great musicians. Was Mike playing for you? Were there other musicians involved? Take us back to that first time where you were headlining as yourself.
The very, very first time I was 11, and that was also a brainchild of Liza. And you should really do something about this. And she sat with me for hours, a steno pad and a pen, and just created a show. And it was a thrill. I had Frank Owens on piano, the wonderful Frank Owens, who played with everybody under the sun, from Lino.
I think I may have lost him. I think we've lost Nick. This is a problem. We have, we'll see if he comes back.
It was into the rhythm of the...
I think, we're going to have to do this again, everyone. I appreciate your indulgence today. Nicholas is using his... Are you there?
Am I back?
You're back. We've lost him again. The issue is that Nicholas was doing this on his iPhone, and iPhones are very problematic with doing this because of broadband and the fact that many people are using their iPhones and everything. So here I am. I still want to celebrate Nicholas, and I want to do this on a night where the two of us can come together and I can really celebrate him. He's back. Let's see if this works better. Are you there? It might be better to do this on your laptop if you want to try that.
Oh, how much do I hate technology?
I know.
I hate technology so much.
Do you want to try it on your laptop?
I can. Do you think it'll be better?
I think it'll be better. Go to get your laptop. I'll keep them entertained, hopefully, until you get back.
Here, so we can still chat
while
I'm doing it, because I have.
Well, what might end up happening is we will get such feedback that it will be excruciating for everyone. But you can try it.
I won't. But let me just.
But we need to make sure that you get locked out of here. Well, this is live television. This is live streaming. This is what happens.
That's what happens, folks.
So who's here?
There's no finesse in any of this.
Well, you're wonderful, and I love these stories, and I really want to celebrate you the way that you deserve to be celebrated. Glenn Charlo is here.
Working a little bit better. Who's that?
Glenn Charlo says he's looking forward to seeing you next month for the American Popular Song Society.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, that'll be great.
That's going to be. Yeah. What were we talking about? I forgot now.
Well, the last thing that I heard you say was that Liza grabbed a yellow pad. She started structuring a show for you. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So that, and then that was the first show that I did. I had Frank Owens on piano, who was a genius, but then I didn't really get into the community, the New York community, until I met Mike Renay. And Mike Renay said, "You got to take this show to New York. We have to do something in New York." And so we debuted at the Metropolitan Room. I was 17, And I was so
Mm-hmm.
nervous because it was something so, um, nerve wracking. I had Alan Smith in the audience. I had Julie Wilson. I had Clea Black, and probably you. I think I met you back then too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
Mm-hmm.
very nerve wracking to me to have all these amazing heavy hitter people in, in the community. And I thought, I don't know. And it was not great. I didn't get best views. It was pretty rough back then. And so again, I went back to Liza. I said, well, I need some help. I don't know. Uncovered for me I think the key to what changed things for me is because a lot of the reviews had said that I was slick and that I was too Vegas-ified and I was too, croonery. And she said, well, yeah. She goes, because they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, they don't know that you've been working since you're 4.5 years old. They don't know that you have the history. They don't know that you're hanging out with me right now. They don't understand that you actually are that person and you're not
Mm-hmm.
actually putting on a Rat Pack act. You actually are that individual. And she said, so I think what we need to do is get rid of all this patter. And what we need to do is we need to tell the audience about you. Tell them about your life. Tell them about working with Hal. Tell them about working with Carol Burnett. Talk to them about me. Talk to them about this stuff and let people in. This way they feel like it's genuine, because it is
Mm-hmm.
genuine. So you give it to them. And I'm embarrassed at first because I thought, well, it's so weird to talk about yourself, and I didn't really want to. I thought it was a bit presumptuous, but she helped me build patter that felt genuine and was real and gave people a glimpse into me. And from that point forward, everything, the skies kind of opened up a bit.
Well, it's great that she gave you that kind of training for the first time that you did your show at the Metropolitan Room. But don't you find that, with all due respect to many people in this business, the fact that you have been doing this your entire life, and that you came into a cabaret room so polished that it hit people the wrong way? It was like, well, who does he think he is? I find that for so many people
Yes.
who come into the community, I think that people want to see the struggle. People want to see the growth. They want to see them get there. So you obviously overcame that. So what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I'm happy that people gave me a chance, and I'm happy that people were kind, and that I did
Mhm.
have the support of people like Billy Stritch from day one, and I had the support of people like Clea Blackhurst from day one, and these people, and I think that's what made me keep going, was having their support, and having their kindness and having them take me by the hand, as it were, and so I think that's what helped me get through it. And I'm just grateful to have found, a niche and a place in which I can keep making music. I'm not on Broadway at the moment, but I can still create art and I can still create little
Mhm.
parts and little characters with each song that I do, thanks to the concerts that I'm able to do in the New York cabaret community.
So how many years have you and Mike Renay been working together? An amazing team that you both are.
Since I think I was 17 when I met Mike. And it was right. It was because that's when I did the Metropolitan Room. So I met him when I was 17 years old, and we just clicked. It was just an instant. Oh, I get this. I
Mhm.
understand what you're playing. I understand what you're singing, and it was a symbiotic thing from moment one. And I have not done a gig without him. He's the peanut butter to my jelly. I always like to
No, that's
say.
I like that. And how did you and Mike meet?
We met at a place, believe it or not, 3 o'clock in the morning in Port Rhode Island. We had both gone to see my aunt, Lisa Ferraro. She has a band, and they were playing at this wonderful club, at this wonderful restaurant. And we happened to be there at the same time. And I knew who he was. He knew vaguely who I was. And we just connected. And it was just an instant. We were sitting at the table eating our pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning when somebody on the jukebox Sinatra's "Strangers in the Night" album and played that track of "On a Clear Day," with that
Mhm.
really On a clear day, ba-da-da-da. Really slow swing. But because I was obsessed with that record growing up, I knew every horn line, I knew every bull crash, and so did Mike. And so Mike and I were sitting across from each other, both doing all the horn lines and stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's someone who gets me, you know?
Not
And
always
that was
easy.
it. And from that point forward, we've been making music and working together.
Well, you say that he is the peanut butter to your jelly. So can you explain what the collaboration process is like for the two of you?
It's very it's very short. It doesn't take a lot, actually. And I think that's why it's so easy, because I will approach him with a song that I want to, or vice versa. We find a key, and then we agree upon a feel of where we want to go with it and what we want to do with it. I tend to be a little bit out of the box sometimes, and he'll kind of raise an eyebrow. So, what do you? But it always works out. We find something new in every arrangement that we do. We find a new point of view to approach it from, and I think that's what makes it so fun for me. If we're going to a standard, let's say Flying to the Moon, I'll say to Michael, what about if we do it as a slow bossa? Really tell the story. This is poetry. The guy is really trying to say, I love you, but he can't say it so easily. He's trying to come up with poetic ways of doing it. Let's dive into this story and really milk it, And then from that point of view, Mike starts orchestrating in the way that only Mike Renay can orchestrate. And it just becomes this thing. And then before you know it, we've got a beautiful original arrangement together. So it's very much, we're always usually on the same page with where we want to go with it.
And, when I look at a career, I look at the ups and downs and the detours and all the things that come together to make it a career. And you've been very, very fortunate with the people that you've met along the way and the direction that you've gone. How proactive are you in terms of the things that have happened in your life? And how many things have come your way due to being at the right place at the right time, or the people that you know, or being ready when that opportunity came your way?
I would say that I've not had the best of luck when it comes to timing.
Oh, wow.
I would argue. Some would argue with me, but I would say timing has always been a little bit off. I would say my timing has always been just a little bit off for things. I'm not at all regretful. I look back at 25 years, and I'm actually kind of blown away by some of those opportunities. I go, oh my gosh, did that really happen? But, no, I think that I think it just takes a lot of work. And I think the thing that helped me the most was gaining the support of important people. So getting the support of Mike Renay, having him vouch for me, or getting Liza to vouch for me, or getting people, like you. You did a beautiful spread on me back when I was 18 years old. Getting the support of people that have a substantial name, and getting them in your corner and in your pocket. I think that's what I had. And I know I'm lucky to have that, but it took a lot of work, and it's cultivating of friendships, and I think that's been, I think, the key to at least my longevity up until now, has been being with really the right people, and really trying to surround myself with really smart people.
Well, Joan Crawford, and I quote her all the time on this. Now I'm going to sound like Julie Halston. No, but Joan Crawford, she says, be nice to everyone you come in contact with, because the person sweeping the floor is running the studio tomorrow. And I have a friend who says, and the person running the studio tomorrow is running the studio today is sweeping floors tomorrow. So you never know where this career is going to take you.
Yes.
What are some of the moments in your life that you feel have been the biggest jump starts in your career? And then on the flip side of that, I want to know a little bit, if you want to go there, about some of the bumps that you've had in the road in your career.
Sure. Well, I think the biggest for me, I think the biggest kickstart was the opportunity that I had to perform on The Tonight Show when I was 8.5 years old. I had just booked Beauty and the Beast, and it caught the attention of the producers in Burbank, and they flew me out, and I did The Tonight Show. I almost didn't do it. They put me on 3 tentative dates, and they canceled me because they like to pair the right acts with the right actors. So they try to get a show that's pretty diverse. And I was supposed to first be on with Cal Ripken Jr. Then I was supposed to be on again with John Bon Jovi, and it just never worked. And I just kind of gave up. I thought, well, maybe they've changed their minds. And finally, they decided to put me on an episode with Brian McKnight and Tom Selleck. And it was that meeting with Tom Selleck that kind of changed my life, because Tom was working with Herb Gardner, unbeknownst to all of us, on this revival of Herb's play, 1,000 Clowns. And Tom met me, and he went back to Herb and he said, I met the kid. I met my co-star. That's the kid I want to play my nephew. And they auditioned me. I was 9 when they auditioned me, and I was too young for the role. The role was for a 13-year-old. And so they kept doing auditions, and about 8 months later and 7 callbacks, I finally got the part. And from that show opened up the door to get to meet Hal Prince and Carol Burnett, which opened up the door to do that show. So I think The Tonight Show with Jay Leno was really a big catapult for me. It opened up the door to a lot of really marvelous opportunities.
And are there, I mean, with everything that you've done, and you've done so much, I mean, do you have a preference? I mean, your CDs, I've been listening to them all day today, and I'll tell you, even when you're singing the ballads, you make me feel good. But when, you've done the studio work, you've done the cabaret work, you've done major concerts, you've done Broadway, is there an area that you really love and you feel the most comfortable performing in?
I love Broadway. I would like to do Broadway again. There's nothing more special than to create magic on a stage with a company, and to stand behind the curtain before it goes up and to hear the chatter and hear the audience's anticipation, and to look around at your castmates and know, okay, here we go. This is it, kids. There is something so magic about that moment. And I would love to do Broadway again. I really would. But I also am aware of my limitations, my height and all that other stuff. So I'm someone who likes to adapt, Richard. I don't like to sit and pout, if I can't do something. I think, all right, if I can't do that, well, what can I do?
You're singing my song.
If I had my preference, I would choose musical theater again, or just theater in general. But I'm also someone I find contentment, in whatever is offered.
Now, out of the 3 shows that you did on Broadway, what was the longest run that you had?
I think the role that I did the longest was Nick Burns in 1,000 Clowns, because we started in North Carolina, and we toured with it a little bit before we brought it to Broadway. That's the role I think that I lived with the most. The role that I almost did. This is an exciting story. The role that I almost did, that I wanted to do more than anything in the world, I lived in this character for 2 years. And his name was Marty, and he was a character in an original Neil Simon play that was going to go to Broadway. And we had done a bunch of workshops. We were greenlit. We had a theater booked. I mean, it was going to go to Broadway, and I was so elated. I think I was 14 years old. I was going to be the lead in a Neil Simon original play, and I was so over the moon for it. This was a role that I wanted to do so badly. And of course, the industry is the industry, and things get in the way, and the role and the show never came to fruition, but that lived with for 2 years. And that was a thrill, to get inside the mind of Neil Simon and to explore him, to me that might be one of the pinnacles to me of of any job that I've had would be getting to
Wow.
work closely with Neil Simon on building this particular character. I loved him.
No, but getting
The
back to
character and Neil. I loved both of them.
yes, but getting back to Broadway, do you? I mean, was it fun for you, or was it a job for you? I mean, you were, let's face it, a young kid for each of the shows that you did. So, how did that fit in? I mean, were you able, and what did you do to create the discipline in your life to go through all this?
So no, it was actually total joy, and it was playtime. When I went to work, it was fun, and I had more fun doing it. I had I never felt pushed or dragged or pulled or coerced. I dragged my parents to those things. I want to do this, For me, the work came when I had to do schoolwork, or when I had to take the garbage out, or when I had to, do chores around the house. That to me was work. I didn't want to do domestic work. I was 11.
You were on Broadway.
And multiplications and taking out the trash. And I don't want to do this. I want to go back to yeah, come on. Yeah.
So
what was the second part of your question?
No, I mean, I wanted to know how you created the discipline of doing this, because it does take a structure in your life to be able to do this every night. With any of these roles, did you have an alternate?
Yes.
Did you split performances? So how did that feel? And how did it feel when the other person was going on?
Well, I split the role for Chip in Beauty and the Beast, and we split that 4 and 4. I never missed a performance in any of the other roles that I did. So my understudy never went on, and I'm sorry. But no, when the kids went on in Beauty and the Beast, I really liked those kids. I worked with 2 wonderful, wonderful actors. Harrison Chad, who's still working today. He was the voice of Boots in Dora the Explorer. And then Ricky Ashley, who was another wonderful actor as well. So I really liked the kids that I worked with. They were my buddies, and they brought something different to the role, and they brought something new. And so when I would listen to them or watch them, I loved cheering them on. I really did. I was never I think the thing for me too, Richard, is I've never been ambitious. I've been driven, but I've never been ambitious. So I'm very happy to share the spotlight. I'm very happy to celebrate people. And, that's I think how I was as a kid. And that's how I am as an adult,
Well, that brings me to another question. You have had the good fortune of singing with some of the greatest singers in the business. What is it for you when you get the opportunity to sing a duet with another great singer?
It brings you to another place, and I think when they're a really good singer, it pushes you to be a better version of yourself. I know when I've shared the stage with people like Veronica, or Jane Monheit, or Norm Lewis, or anyone who's just solid, it makes you enter a new plateau, and you want to do better, and you want to be on your game, So to me, it's thrilling, it's inspiring, and it makes me bring my A game, really.
And I know you mentioned earlier that you never missed a performance. Has there ever been a moment in your life pre-pandemic where you missed a performance? Because I know I have gone on with the worst migraine in the world and gotten good reviews on it. But has that have you ever had to miss a performance?
No, but I got close to missing a performance one time. I had gone to see, this is so funny. I'm probably the only person in history to get laryngitis from a Barbra Streisand concert. I went to see Barbra Streisand.
No, there are a few of those out there.
It was her farewell concert. it was last of the last concerts. It was the second at Madison, and everybody was just sobbing and crying and screaming, and I showed up to the Lunt-Fontanne Theater the next morning, sounding like B. Arthur. I had no voice whatsoever, and it was just this. And I can't wait to be here, and I did the show, but the stage manager came up to me and said, "Listen, can't happen. You got to be careful when you're not on. You still have to be on. So even if you're off for a night, you're still on as Chip. So you're never off duty. So keep that in mind." And that was a lesson. So even now to this day, when I go to concerts, I don't sing along. I mouth everything. I lip sync. So even like I went and saw Celine Dion before the pandemic hit, and I had to do Birdland or something a night or two after. But even then, I was like, nope, I'm not going to sing out. Just mouth it.
And who was out there that
what else
really...
are you gonna do? Because otherwise you could ruin it, and you have to stay on your game.
And who is out there right now that really inspires you on a very soulful level that you would really love to have the opportunity to work with?
That I haven't worked with already?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have to say I'd love to work with Barbra Streisand, obviously, but who wouldn't? So we'll skip that.
Okay.
I would love to work with Jamie Cullum. Jamie Cullum to me is so out of the box, so unique and so different. He's jazz, he's pop, he's funk, he's all over the map, but he's all soul and he's all heart, and he is a guy. So we'd do well doing a duet because we're the same height, and I think we could really rock. But he's somebody that I would love to collaborate with one day.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Cullum.
And with everything that you've done, what is the one thing that you haven't done that is still on? You mentioned earlier that you're not ambitious, but for this moment, I want you to be ambitious. And I want you to tell us the one thing that you haven't done in your career that you really would love to do.
I'd like to do a film. I'd like to do a solid dramatic movie. That would be really fun to do. Something that could really be, because I love movies. I'm such a fan of the movies and of Hollywood. So if I could have the chance to originate a character in a movie, I think that would be a real privilege and a real dream. And actually, if I may add, I would love to sell out Carnegie Hall. That would be an ultimate dream. So I do a movie, and if I could sell out Carnegie Hall, those are only two dreams that I have that I would say that's pretty cool. I'd like to do that.
You have played Carnegie Hall. So you've appeared at Carnegie Hall, and I was lucky enough years ago to appear at Carnegie Hall. Describe for everyone what that experience is like, in your own words, of walking out on that stage. For me, well, I don't want to say what it was for me. I want to hear what it was for you, walking through those doors.
Well, I want to hear what it was for you too. Well, tell me yours after. I think it's the feeling of, yeah, I did it. I think that sort of feeling of like, yeah, I worked my tail feathers off, and now I'm here. And you don't get to, and I know it's so silly. It's like the old commercial. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? You don't get there by, pulling a number out of a hat. You got to work hard for your
No.
So I think for me, when I got that call, I went, that's really cool. That's really, really, really cool. And I was just beaming from ear to ear for like 2 weeks straight.
I'm not ashamed to say this. I mean, first of all, and you will remember this, I'm sure, the restrictions there were so tight, and we could not even go on stage until they allowed us to go on stage, because I really wanted to get out there and get on the stage the moment I got backstage. And when I walked out on that stage and I looked out at that theater, I'm not ashamed to say I began to cry. because I thought of every major person in the music industry that I love so much that it stood on that very same stage that I was standing on.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's unparalleled. It's a really unparalleled performance. But I think, I think it would be a dream to be there as a solo artist. Do my own thing there as a soloist, and to sell a lot of tickets, and dare I say sell out. I think that'd be the real pinnacle for me.
Well, I think it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
Maybe after COVID. We'll see how things
I know it's going to happen. I can't believe this, but we are at the end of our show. And I want to thank everyone who took the time to tune in today. I know it was a little rocky, but we got through it. And I want to thank all of you. Yes. I want to thank all of you who stuck with us throughout the show. If you enjoyed the show, and I hope you did, please go to my website, richardskipper.com, sign my guest book with your thoughts about the show. That helps to boost me in other markets. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. What I would like you all to do is go to your Facebook friends list, pull up the 6th name that pops up, and I want you to then reach out to that 6th person, let them know what they mean in your life. Then I want you to go to nicholasking.com, and I want you to order 2 CDs, one for yourself and one for your 6th friend on that list. Now, before we end the show, Nicholas, I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about today? Anything you would like to say about anything that we didn't cover that you wish we had? Or any message that you want to put out to the world right now? And again, Nicholas King, thank you so much for spending an hour with me today.
Well, I think my message has to do with you, Richard. And I think I want to thank you for thinking of me and for having me. And I want to thank everybody for supporting the arts. I mean, what Richard has been doing for years, supporting and celebrating and really helping all of us in the in the industry. That Richard interviews, it's just wonderful, and I love the way that you interview. I love your program, and I want to thank you. And I think the message that a time in which we're all scratching our heads trying to figure out which end is up, and when we're not able to do what we want to do, we don't feel useful. We don't feel like we have a purpose. So when we get people like all of you viewers, when we get people like Richard Skipper who support each other, I think it is the most beautiful gift that we give each other, is to let those artists that we love know that we hear them, we love them, and we support them. So please continue to do so. Support the artists that you love, by whether it be your presence, or whether it be in a small financial way, or whether it just be to drop a text or a message and say, hey, I really like this art that you're making. And I think that the more that we can continue to do that, I think the easier it'll be for the rest of us on this side of the pandemic. Thank you. That's my message.
So well, thank you so much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.